Hello, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another reading vlog where I'm gonna be reading Leviathan Falls. So Leviathan Falls is the ninth and last book in the Expanse series, which is a sci-fi series, and I'm actually gonna be reading the novella that comes after this, which is book 9.5 and like the actual final book, I guess, which is called The Sins of Our Fathers, and I will link below the links for the videos for the 8 previous books if you want to check those out before this one. And I absolutely love this series. Like, a lot of books have been 5 stars. I love all of these books so much. I love this world. I love these characters so fucking much. And I was definitely like, I had mixed feelings going into this book because obviously I wanted to know what it was gonna be like, what was gonna happen, how the story was gonna end, but also I didn't want it to end because I didn't want to say goodbye to this world and these characters that I love so much. But mostly I was definitely like excited, and so I just want to say that there are definitely spoilers in this reading vlog, and let's get into it. Okay, so I am on page 173, chapter 17 of Leviathan Falls, and this book, like the prologue, starts with something crazy because the leader of Laconia, who we know is not really, functioning after the experiments with the proto-molecule, and he just, is non-responsive and all that. He, in the prologue, like, he shows up in a spaceship to one of the Laconian people, and he's not like physically there, but the guy can like actually see him. And so that guy then calls Colonel Tanaka to find their leader, because he wants to know like what the hell is actually happening. How is he, showing up in places where he's not actually at. And then we see that Amos, like, he has a seizure, and then I don't know if it was exactly like at the same time or if it just, in the next chapter that thing was happening, but I think maybe he had a seizure while Elvie was like doing experiments with those kids that are in the same situation as Amos, that they like died but didn't actually die, and now they're not entirely sure if they're them, so I'm not sure if the seizure was while that was happening, but I am assuming that it was. And then they're taking Teresa to like a boarding school because they think that she'll be safer there than with them, on their ship, seeing as they're always getting in trouble. But when they get to the boarding school, like, there is no one there, and then Tanaka shows up because he thought that the best way to find the like leader of Laconia was to, have his daughter. And so she wants to take Teresa, and there is like a huge fight, and she shoots Amos in a way that like he should have died, and then Holden shoots her, but neither of them die. Like, Amos doesn't die because he's now whatever he is, and Tanaka doesn't die because she had like great armor or whatever, but they do take Teresa with them again in the ship. And like, Teresa, while she's on the ship, she also has like a vision with her father, so like he also showed up to her, and she thinks that she's like hallucinating, which, one would, but I'm assuming it's the same thing that like kind of happened in the prologue, and that is pretty much where I'm at. And like, other than, that thing in the prologue and then the, fight scene, nothing like major has happened, but I'm not complaining at all because I just love these characters, and I love, getting closer to them and getting even more attached to them and just follow them doing whatever they're doing. So I am not complaining at all. Like, I am absolutely loving it. And I'm also very invested in the plot for sure, especially the parts related to the proto molecule. That is always the most like exciting and interesting, and just the parts that I love the most. And yeah, like, I'm definitely loving it, and I'm excited because I know it's gonna get wild at some point, and I'm also scared because I know it's gonna get wild at some point, and I'm afraid of what might happen to the characters that I just love so much. And yeah, I'm definitely excited, but also very, very scared. But for sure, I am loving it. And I am gonna read another third of this book, and I will get back to you. Okay, so I made it to page 345, which is 2/3 into Leviathan Falls. And I actually read this second third, which was 172 pages, in one sitting because I am obsessed with this book. But basically, we learn in the beginning of the second third that there was another, I mean, they call it a blink, like one of those phenomena where people like lose time. But this time, when it happened, like everyone in the system where it happened, everyone died. And then our crew, they get a message from the guy that was like now in charge of Laconia after the leader, Duarte, like was no longer able to lead Laconia. So they get a message from that guy saying that he wants to cooperate with them, like against their actual real enemy. So whoever is doing all of this, whoever killed the people, the beings who created the proto-molecule, all that. But they want Teresa, and Naomi and the others don't trust him, and obviously I don't trust him either. But a woman, I think she was called Jillian, she was like an ally of Naomi and the others. She she replies to that other guy from Laconia saying that they agree because they know that if they don't agree, that guy will attack them. So she sends a message saying that they agree. But then when Tanaka gets there, she realizes that she fucked up. So she actually tells the others to run while she, keeps Tanaka and her men like occupied, and she just dies in the process of helping the others leave. And while they are running, Amos says that they need to find Elvie because like he had another seizure, and I think I said in my first update that I thought like those things happened to him when Elvie was like doing experiments with Kara, like the kid that is like Amos. And that is in fact true. Like when she is in the experiments, what she sees, Amos sees as well, like when he's having the seizures. And so he wants them to go meet Elvie. And they do. And while they are on their way, we get a chapter, like a pretty long chapter. I think probably like the longest chapter in this series because they're all like around 10 pages or less. And we have like a lot of POVs in this chapter, and one of them is from like Alex's son, and he was like with his own son who's a baby and called Bakari. And it says here, Bakari was there, as close as he had ever been before, but what had been his boy was a complexity of vibrations, molecules and atoms in clumps and patterns too baroque to show where one thing began and another ended. Kit fell what would have been forward onto what would have been his knees, and the pain of it was like watching dominoes fall. Tiny electrochemical sparks passing from nerve to nerve. The shimmering in the air was Bakari screaming, and Kit screaming too. Kit is Alex's son. The feeling of the air abrading his throat was a cascade of rushing, razor-sharp atoms. Something more solid and real than they were slipped through the jumble of atoms that was the wall. A thread of conscious darkness that had never known light was the antithesis of it. Kit tried to move the clouds that were his arms around the cloud that had been his son, knowing decently that it couldn't matter. He was no more solid than the wall had been. Darkness whirled toward him, scattering his son. And, like, supposedly, the ship that they were on, like, disappeared, vanished, and I was like, I can't believe that like he died or they died, you know. And then the next POV is from Tanaka, and it says something happened to Tanaka that felt like waking up without falling asleep first. Her awareness shifted, opened, became something it hadn't been a moment before. She was in her crash couch, but she was also in the medical bay with her head in excruciating pain, and in Bottom's cabin with a bulb of whiskey in his hand and the burn of it in his throat. She saw through 1,000 sets of eyes, felt 1,000 different bodies, knew herself by 1,000 different names. And then, the next POV is once again Kit, and it says, surfaces emerged, then objects, and then Kit was looking into Bakari's wide, frightened eyes. Kit's heart fluttered, as confused as a man who'd forgotten what he was saying mid-sentence, and then it pounded, each stroke so hard he could see the pulse in his eyes. He wrapped his son tight in his arms, and as Bakari started to wail, and held him close, sheltered against a threat he didn't understand and couldn't locate in space. And I was like, what the hell just happened? So, like, the ship disappeared, the ship, like, he was in, disappeared, and then, like, came back. And everyone who was near, like, the gates went through something, and they kind of, like, got to see memories of other people, got to be in, like, other people's places, and now they have other memories, and they keep, like, having other memories in their head of, like, other people. And then our people, our crew, they get to Elvi, and she is talking to them about, like, that whole thing that happened, because she is getting reports from Tanaka, because she's supposedly working for the Laconians, even though she's not. And she tells them it looks like it may have been a kind of network connection between the minds of the people in the ring space. All the crews of all the ships. It was apparently fairly overwhelming, but there's an indication that they all participated in each other's memories and experiences. And then they're talking about, like, what Kara and Amos see, like, when they're wherever they are when they're doing the experiments, and they see, like, a third person, and they're pretty sure that the third person is that Laconia leader who is, like, appearing to people, like Teresa's father. And so Elvi puts both Kara and Amos, like, under the experiment, and then that guy from Laconia, Teresa's father, I think his name is Duarte, he appears to everyone else. Like, he's not, like, physically there, because then they check the security cameras and he's not there, but they all see him. And actually, at some point, I don't know, I think like at the beginning of this book, at some point, I thought that it was kind of like when Holden could see, what was his name? The guy from the first book. Miller, I think that was his name. When he could see Miller, but, like, only he could see Miller, and whenever anyone got close, like, the vision went away. And in this case, like, they could all see Duarte. So, you know, there's that. But he, like, gives them advice on how to beat their enemy, and he says that they have to kind of become a hive mind, which is kind of what is happening in a way, because they are getting, like, each other's memories already, some people. And then they're saying I think, yeah, Naomi's saying, so you're saying that Duarte, or whatever he's turning himself into, is at least plausibly preparing to make everyone, everywhere, part of a collective consciousness with him at the center, so that he can go to war against the things beyond the gates? Elvi gathered herself, fighting to organize her thoughts. Yes. So that is insane, terrifying, crazy, but that is pretty much where I'm at. I mean, the only thing that happens after is, like, Amos tells Elvi that, like, she needs to stop the experiments. Like, he's not asking, he's not requesting, like, she needs to stop the experiments. And that is where I'm at. And yeah, I am absolutely obsessed with this book. Like I said, I read these 172 pages in one sitting because I am just hooked. I am obsessed. I am loving it. Like, this whole thing with the proto-molecule and, like, the memories is just wow, mind-blowing, amazing. I'm so into it. I'm loving it so much. And I am so invested, and I am so scared about what's gonna happen. And I just love these characters so much, and I don't want anything bad to happen to them, but I don't know if I trust that it won't. So I'm very scared. I am very stressed. I am very excited at the same time. I am just loving it so much. And yeah, I'm going to read the last 170 pages. And I'm also going to read the novella that comes after this, and is actually the very last book of the series, which I am not ready for, by the way. Not ready for the series to end. But I'm going to read that novella, which I think is called The Sins of Our Fathers. I have no idea what that's about. Like, I didn't read any synopsis or anything. I never do read the synopsis. I mean, I don't read the synopsis of the novellas, but I also don't read the synopsis of the novels either. I just go into it. So yeah, I'm gonna read or let. I'm gonna finish the series, and I'll be back. Okay, so I have finished the book, and in this last third, people keep struggling with those memories that belong to other people. And Naomi decides to send a message to Trejo to actually start collaborating against their common enemy. And so Trejo sends Tanaka, and she meets with, our main crew at the station where they think they're gonna find Duarte. And so they send Tanaka and Teresa to get inside the station to find Duarte and try to get him to stop what he's doing. But he doesn't actually want them to get inside the station, so he causes another blink. And everyone who's there, they also go through that thing with the memories. Like, everyone there starts getting the memories that belong to other people. And so they're trying to figure out how to get inside the station. And Holden has an idea, and his idea is to kind of like infect himself with a protomolecule and see Miller, the Miller that I used to see that like was actually the protomolecule. And I thought that was really funny because I did think of that Miller that I used to see earlier in the book. And so he does that, and he's hoping that Miller can find a way to get them to get in the station, to like get the station open. And so Holden, Tanaka, and Teresa get into the station, and they actually do find a way to get inside. And like, I never loved Miller. He was always kind of an asshole, but he's definitely like a funny asshole. Like, he's definitely very funny. And so they get in the station and they find Duarte, and they try to convince him to stop, but he is so like fused with the protomolecule that like his wishes are the protomolecule's wishes, and so he doesn't want to stop, and he's like very powerful. And then Tanaka starts fighting Duarte, and like they fight each other, and they actually kill each other. And when Duarte dies, the things with the memories, like, they stop, but they're still, in danger. And I forgot to mention, but that thing that Holden did to see Miller, like, it's killing him. He's gonna die because of that. And so he sends Teresa like away back to the ships, and he tells everyone who's like around that area to get away, and he's just going to try to hold on for a while, but they should like get away as fast as they can. And everyone moves to different systems, and Alex like actually separates from the rest of the crew because his son is in another system, and so he wants to be with his son because there will be no more communication between systems. So he doesn't want to miss out on the chance of seeing his son again. So he separates from the rest of the crew, which was really sad, by the way. And then everyone goes in a different direction, everyone goes to a different system, and then Holden like sacrifices himself, he dies, and the gates all close. And that is like pretty much how the book ends. But then there is an epilogue. And also, before the epilogue, I thought it was very like everything like coming like full circle, that Holden died with like Miller in his head, because in book one, like they were both like kind of dying together, and they like talked about it. And yeah, I thought it was like very full circle. But in the epilogue, there is someone like getting to Earth, like a crew
from another system, and they meet with Amos, because after Amos was like changed with the protomolecule, he doesn't age, he doesn't grow old, he doesn't die. And so Amos says to that guy, so it's been a rough millennium around here. We're starting to get our shit together, and I've been doing what I can to help with that, but it's slow going. So like, I guess people figured out again how to travel through like different systems. So that's really cool, and Amos is still around, which is also really cool, but that is how the book ended. So let's go into my final thoughts. And starting off with the characters as usual, I just love all of the characters from the main crew so much. Like, I've loved them since the beginning of the series, and I just started loving them more and more and more as the series progressed. And Teresa definitely grew on me, because I didn't really like her in the previous book, especially in the beginning of the previous book, but she definitely really grew on me, and like I really cared about her and about what was happening to her. And I also really liked Elvie. She was also a really cool character. And I really hated Tanaka, and I'm really happy that she died in the way that she died. And yeah, this book was just like very emotional, because I was so scared about what was happening to the characters, about what was going to happen to the characters. And they were all just, struggling, going through so much. So I was just feeling all the feelings. And in terms of the plot, like, I was invested from like literally page one. I was so hooked. I like the last 2/3 of the book I read in 2 sittings. So I was obsessed with it. I was hooked. I was loving it so much. And the pacing, I also thought it was perfect, because I wasn't bored for a single second, but also like it wasn't too fast. It was just absolutely perfect. And I definitely loved the ending. It was very bittersweet for sure, because it wasn't, a happy ending, because, characters died, characters got separated, like the communications among the systems got closed, so people couldn't, see people that they knew that were in other systems. So it was definitely not like, a pretty picture ending, but I thought it was still like really good and more realistic, I feel like. And I was pretty sure Holden was gonna die. Like, I was pretty sure he was gonna sacrifice himself at the end, because it just felt like something that was gonna happen. So like, I saw that coming, so I was kind of prepared, but it still hurt. And like I said, Alex like separating from the rest of the crew was also really sad. But again, I understand. And yeah, I love this book. It was amazing. I loved literally every second, and I gave it 5 stars. And I can't believe that this series is over, and that like my time with these characters is over. That's insane. Like, I can always reread it, but it's still over. Like, it still ends with this. It still ends here. But yeah, I loved it so much. And then the novella, The Sins of Our Fathers, actually follows Philip, Naomi's son. And like, the only thing that I was like expecting to get from this book that I didn't was Philip like reuniting with Naomi, or at least like seeing each other. Not that like that takes away from my 5-star rating at all, but it's something that I expected to happen, and it just didn't. But in the novella, like, we follow him, and he is like in a planet in another system, and he's like dealing with the native creatures of that planet, which they call monsters, and they're like dangerous and deadly. And he's also trying to deal with like the leader of like a group of people who is an asshole. And he's just dealing with all that, and also trying to heal from his traumas of like what his father did and what he helped his father do. And yeah, I also really like that. I was not expecting it to be about Philip, but I'm really glad that it was, because I did expect to see him in the other book and I didn't. So it was definitely a pleasant surprise. And yeah, I can't really talk too much about it, because my ebook was like 40 pages long. So, there's not like that much to say other than this, but I also really enjoyed that one, and I think I'm gonna give it 4 stars. And yeah, that's it. I finished the series, and I don't know what to do with my life now because this is like an absolute 5-star series for me. I love it so much. I love these characters with all my heart, and I'm going to miss them so much. But yeah, I finished it, and I am glad that I finished it. I'm glad that I know how it ends. And yeah, that is everything for this video. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you have enjoyed it. And if you did, give it a like and subscribe, and I will talk to you next time. Bye!